and welcome to another fantastic day here at Adobe Live on Behance. I hope you're having a fabulous Monday because I certainly am. I've been in the green room with Sophia.
Hello, everyone.
It's
Hi.
so good to have you with us on the UK stream on a Monday. This is
Yes.
so lovely. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's been so long since we've been on a stream together.
I know we were reminiscing. Our last stream was Adobe Rush.
Yes.
And well over a year ago.
I think it might have been like exactly a year ago.
No way.
Roll the tapes. No.
No. Oh, it's so good. But we're joined by everybody. Everyone's come to see you today, Sophia. So a few quick hellos. I can see Kirsty, Stefan, Andreas, Linda as well, Gareth. Great to see everybody here today. And of course, we're doing a photo retouching or skin retouching today.
Yes. So some people that might have watched a German stream that I've done recently will recognize it because I've done this on the German stream before. We're gonna do some skin retouching tricks and tips, like from basic to advanced, or from more of a beginner thing to a little bit more of advanced stuff, but something for everyone. And I will show you some different techniques you can use for different things. That's kind of what we're going to do.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. Absolutely. And a lot of you may have joined our stream with Karina. I think it was 2 weeks ago where Karina actually illustrated one of Sophia's photos.
Yes.
So that was amazing.
Absolutely. And also, fun fact, it's the same model. Yeah. The same person. Like her name is Eve. She's from Paris. I don't know if that's important, but I use her beautiful face for a lot of streams. And Karina, illustrated one of the photos I took of Eve.
That's so good.
Yes.
That's so good. Well, everybody, if you're watching on YouTube today, come over and join us on Behance. If you have any questions for Sophia, get them in the chat. I'll get them asked. And we've got a cup of tea, cup of coffee. We're just gonna have a catch up and have a look at some skin retouching. So
exactly.
Kirsty already says love skin retouching. Yes, Kirsty.
Yes, I think skin retouching is something that takes a bit of time to master, but it is something that once you know the little tricks, it's really good. Like it can take a photo from a good photo to a really good photo, I think.
Yeah.
So I will show you the image that we're going to work with. Once again, some people might have seen this image before. Surprise! And what you're seeing right now is the fully retouched image as it is after we're done, basically. And I will show you what it looked like out of the camera. This is the before.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you can see.
This is the after. I hope you look at the skin and the makeup before, after. And I think what's really important to mention in the beginning, skin retouching, in my opinion, is not about making the skin look like it's not real, making the skin look like porcelain. It's more about removing little, air quotes, imperfections, or directing the eye of the viewer to what is important. So if there's glitter on the cheek that's not supposed to be there, that's distracting because we want people to look at her eyes or the lipstick. So sometimes less is more with retouching, and proper retouching takes time. So it's not something where you can easy fix, filter on top kind of situation. That's the first thing. The second thing about what I use here, how I actually retouch, is that I have a editing pad and a little pen. You can easily do it with your mouse. It's just when you're editing for hours or something, which editing a whole face can take a long time, it's nicer, I think, because it feels like painting a little bit. So I prefer a pen. And I also have customized my toolbar and my shortcuts, which we can talk about later, just to make my workflow a little bit easier and faster and more efficient. I'm German. I'm very into efficiency. So what we're going to do is we're gonna have basically 4 chapters, which is gonna be the rough cleanup. It's gonna be chapter number 1, let's say that. Then we're gonna do dodge and burn, which is a very known technique. Then we're gonna do some frequency separation, and if we still have time, we're gonna talk a little bit about correcting colors. Like if there's like a pimple that's a bit too red, or you have color shifts in the skin, how we can do that. So that's so you all know what to expect in the next 60 minutes.
Love an agenda. Love
Wonderful. Last time I did the stream, I had a whole like notes, 6 pages of notes. Today I thought I have 1. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh yeah, you're a pro. You're a pro. And no, this is great. And I love the fact that we can see what's coming so that we can, you know, and anyone has questions, as I say, as you know what's coming, pop them in at each, each stage. So let us know. And Sophia, I have to say, really love the fact that when you're sharing your work on Instagram, not only do we get, these amazing, photo shoots and these images, which are just, you capture personality and character and fun in all of your photos. I love it. But what I love more is all the behind the scenes videos that you do, and all of the behind the scenes photo shoots, because that content is just so interesting to see what goes on behind the scenes.
I think sometimes people are either impressed that there's not that much going on, or they're impressed that there is a lot going on, because either my shoots are just me or it's a lot of people. And then I think people expect neither. I don't know what people think what goes on behind the scenes at a photo shoot, but I usually get comments that are like, I did not think that there were so many people included in this, like styling and makeup and stuff. Or people are like, oh, it's just you.
I just love the variations. Like you see chairs and props and things coming in, and people climbing on people's backs. So you're like, wow, like this is cool. So,
true. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's just, I realize that I just forget often to do it because I'm so focused on taking the photos, and I'm like, oh my God, no, I have to set up my phone somewhere so we can have some behind the scenes for later.
I love it.
But now working on it.
Love it.
So yeah, if you want to see more behind the scenes, you can follow me on Instagram. I've made it a habit to have at least one behind the scenes of every shoot I do. So if you're into that, come follow me.
Definitely look at the House of Brownies one, everybody, because I think you'd called it as well the most fun shoot that you've done.
Also, I shot with them a second time, so we have another behind the scenes with them coming, like in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, good. It looks like so much fun. Everyone just looks so happy, and
and there was music playing and everyone's dancing, and we were having like the best time. It's just so much fun, and you can see it in the pictures too, I think.
You can, but that's it though. And you see these pictures and then you think, oh wow, what a great shot, and then you watch the behind the scenes and you're like, I can totally see why everyone was so happy and that came out, and
everyone was like cheering each other on and stuff. So good, so much fun. Okay, back to this, trying to focus. So let's remove our edit here, our backup. And the first thing, like I said, is what I call the rough cleanup. I guess, I don't know if that's a term, but I call it that, which is basically I make a copy of the background, the layer 0 as it's called here. And I call it edit. I think you can name your layers whatever you want. I know a lot of people get very picky about how they name the layers and stuff. If you know what the layer is, I think that's fine. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through some of these tools that we have here. The spot healing brush, and the patch tool. I don't know if that's a controversial thing to say, but they all can do kind of the same thing when it comes to skin retouching. It's more a matter of what do you prefer to use in that sense. So what we're gonna do is I like to zoom in a little bit. It's more about if you know your image is gonna be on Instagram, you don't have to zoom in to like 400%. If you know your photo is going to be on a billboard, you should probably zoom into 400% just to really get everything. So we have the first one here, which is the spot healing brush, which is pretty easy because you basically draw or like click on the area you want to remove. That's not a good example here. Let me go with the hair. I hope you can see this. And you draw on top of it and it's gone. And if you check on top of this, you see content aware, create texture, and proximity match. So what it basically does, it copies from an area close to the area you like are painting on top of. And then it removes like content aware. I think content aware is such a magical thing in Photoshop.
Yeah.
And you can remove all these little pieces. It works especially well with high contrast things, meaning like these little hairs. Also, if I would like to remove this hair, it's gone. If we would be very detailed, I would go into this and remove all these little, you know, pieces of mascara under the eyes, depending once again on how detailed and how big the photo is going to be published. It's really nice for like hairs and stuff here, eyebrows, if you want to remove those. So that's basically a very automatic tool because you can't control what it is copying from. I think it does a really good job. Sometimes you have to go over the same spot twice. But for some things, and especially if you don't have a lot of time, it's a good tool. Then the next one would be the the healing brush tool, where you basically can decide where you want, like what area you want to paste onto something. So you hold down Option, and then it copies that area, and then you can paint it on top of the spot that you want to remove, kind of. So it gives you a bit more control of the areas you want to paste to copy onto something else. Once again, I think it depends on what area you're working on, how much control you want to have. Some people asked before, what's the difference between the healing brush and the clone stamp tool? Because you're basically copy pasting one bit of the photo onto another bit of the photo, and the clone stamp tool does that 100%. Like it copies that area and pastes onto wherever you want it to be. And the spot healing brush only does that with colors, and like it does not copy 100% everything. I think it copies light and color.
Right.
So it leaves out, like it's not 100% a clone like the clone stamp tool.
Yeah.
And then my personal favorite is the patch tool, just once again, personal preference, because I think it works really well with the pen. So what it does, you circle, like draw a little circle around the area you want to remove, and then you drag it to the side and it's gone. Like circle, drag, gone, circle, drag, gone. Like I think it's really easy. And while I do this, I have my hand on Command D to deselect every time. Like you draw around, you drag, deselect. So I can see exactly what happened. And I think that's a very, I like that version. And that's also why I am working on a copy of my background and not on an empty layer, because the first two tools, the spot healing brush and the healing brush, you can use on an empty layer, but that does not work with the patch tool.
Right. Okay.
That's
put that there. And how long would you normally allocate for this type of editing, you know, in that post process? So how much time would you give?
It kind of depends, because for me, this is kind of the quickest thing to do, because it's, if like later on we'll see some techniques that take way longer, but they would actually do the same job. We could do all these things that I'm doing right now with dodge and burn and frequency separation. So if I know I want this to be impeccable, I would only remove like hair and a little bit of these like glitter pieces that are like fall out of the lipstick, so it would not take a long time. I think this for me is the fastest and easiest step. So I would do this for like half an hour probably.
Cool.
It's really good for like flyaways of hair and stuff.
Yeah.
If you like want to remove this because it's distracting. And I think that's another question that also came up in the other live, like what to remove and what to leave. Like, how do you know what you're supposed to retouch? And I think, in my opinion, there are two rules. One rule is if it's still there in 2 weeks, you should leave it, because then it's part of the person. And you can remove it if it's completely like shifting the focus of the image. Those are the rules. I think like little hairs in front of the eyes and stuff like that, that is just distracting off the actual focus that we want, or like the things we want people to look at. So this is basically like the cleanup. This, once again, there are no rules. You can do this for an hour. You can decide you're happy with what you have now. It's more like for little like pimples and stuff. I think it's really good. We can also go to the stamp tool just to show you how to use it, but it's basically the same. You copy holding down Option, and then you draw it on top of the spot you want to retouch. I personally don't use the clone stamp tool at all. I don't know why. I think it's just, we never had a thing.
Yeah.
But I'll show you some tricks later how to use it in a different way than we're using it right now. So yeah, this is basically the first cleanup. And like I said, let's talk quickly about toolbar and shortcuts, because editing, once again, can be a very lengthy process if you want to do it properly. So I think it's really good to optimize your screenshots and your shortcuts and your toolbar if you're using, especially if you're using a pen. Because if you look at this, like if you press J on your keyboard, for you there are probably different tools in here, and that's because I removed some of them, because sometimes when I'm jumping through different tools, I use my shortcuts, meaning if I want to jump from the spot healing brush to the healing brush to the patch tool, I just hold down Shift and hit J again. So if you check out like the little symbols here, they change, and I'm going through the different tools that are hidden behind the letter J on my keyboard by holding down Shift and then pressing J. And if there are tools in there that I don't need, I would always have to like skip them basically. And what you can do is you can go down here under Edit and then Toolbar, and you can customize what you want to have underneath the letter J, basically in your toolbar, and what do you want to take out. Because if you know, for example, I'm only using the patch tool, I'm never going to use the other ones, you can just take them out if you think you don't need them. Really, or if you don't need the healing brush, you say I'm only working with the spot healing brush and the patch tool, take it out, and then you go done. And then if you can, by holding down Shift and J, you can just jump between these two. Now you see there are only these two, and I think it makes it way faster. Not way faster, but a little bit faster.
And then Sean made a really good point actually in the chat, who said that the clone stamp would be really good to retouch the lipstick.
Yes, exactly, because there are so many spots in between where it's not applied properly. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And then also something I do, personal preference, is I change my shortcuts just because I have small hands. And sometimes,
whatever works.
yeah, sometimes the shortcuts. I mean, I think for people with bigger hands or people that play piano. But for me, it's just really hard because I can't reach all of them. So, and also like you can customize all of them, you can move them around. So whatever works for you, but I would recommend doing it, especially if you're editing a lot. It makes your life a lot easier.
And do you use the newer filters at all in Photoshop when you're editing?
I haven't. In the last stream, I wanted to try them, but I have never used them before. I have to be completely honest. I mean, I could. We can try it later if we still have time.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let's have a little look. But, oh, no, cool. Everybody's talking about floating panels now in the chat.
The conversation has shifted.
Yes.
Okay. Rough cleanup. Do as much or as little as you like. Those are the tools you can use. And then see where it takes you. Once again, sometimes less is more. You don't have to remove everything. It's okay if a face has pores. It's okay if a face has wrinkles. It does not have to be a doll. The next thing, what we're going to do is a technique called dodge and burn, which is originated from like how people developed photos in dark rooms, like analog photos. Because it only uses light, like lightening up spots that are too dark and darkening spots that are too light. Because if we think about what is an imperfection, let's say a pimple, for example, it's basically too bright at the top and too dark at the corner. So if we brighten one up and darken one down, we kind of even it out. I hope this makes sense in my head.
That's a good explanation of that. That's a good description because I've not heard it described in that way. And that makes complete sense.
Yeah, so it's a very non-destructive technique because we're not changing the pixels in the photo. We're not changing the skin itself. We're just changing the light, which can have a very big impact. And it's a very, I think, natural way of retouching because it's not like we did before, like copy, pasting, moving pixels around. It's a very natural look in the end. And there are multiple ways to do it. I think today we're going to talk about 2 versions or like 2 techniques to dodge and burn. I think if you Google it, you'll find 10 different techniques how to dodge and burn. Once again, it's personal preference.
Yeah.
And the first thing we're going to talk about, because there is actually a dodge and burn tool in Photoshop that we have here under all. I think I also removed one other tool that was in here. So dodge tool and burn tool. And I think I told that story in the German stream as well, because I don't know about you, but I always wonder, why are the little icons in Photoshop, why are they the way they are? Like, who came up with the fact that there's a hand in the burn tool? I mean, some of them make a lot of sense. The pen tool, the pen.
Yeah.
But this one, I never knew. Like, why is it this? You see this like little hand? It's almost like, what does it mean?
It looks like a lollipop.
Yeah, and then why is it a lollipop? Like, what's the deal there? And I looked it up, and it has to do with how back in the day in the dark room they actually worked with this tool. Because if you think about it, the dodge tool is to brighten up things. So what they did was, the only part that they did not want to be brightened up, they covered it with a little piece of paper, and they had to hold it on a little stick. So they had to cover this area so the light was only
no way
the rest. And if you look at the burn tool, which is basically the opposite, is that you cover everything but one thing. So basically you cover all of the picture, only one thing is affected by the light.
I love this. I love that we're getting the history, the background to all of these things in this stream. Sophia, honestly, love you. This is just so good.
So yeah, I think if my research is right, I don't know if the Photoshop team is gonna hunt me down for this, but I think the icons come from how they used to work with dodge and burn.
The original process.
Yes.
Very cool.
Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe it's a lollipop. We'll see. But I think it would make a lot of sense.
Oh, and Sandrine in the chat says, and to be clear, we used to build them, those tools, wire, a piece of paper, sometimes a hole in an old print sheet.
Exactly. So this little lollipop is a piece of paper,
so cool,
on a stick or something to cover one tiny part of the picture.
Wow.
So that little part is not affected by the light because it's covering this. I think it's genius.
I think it's genius.
Yeah. And the burn tool, once again, you basically cover everything on the photo besides this little spot that you want to brighten up.
So cool.
That makes also a lot of sense. Okay. So much talking, so little doing. I'll try to talk less, do more. So let's zoom in a little bit. One big hit in the German stream, one big tip, listen up people, is if you look at this photo, do you know which parts are too bright and which parts are too dark? Would you know? Would you have a feeling what to do now? I assume the question is no. I'm like a teacher that's answering without paying any attention to the students. I assume the answer is no. And a good trick to see a little bit better if it's too bright or too dark is to use a black and white layer on top and then go down with the reds. Because now I think you can see a little bit better that, oh my God, I'm pointing with my finger on the screen as if people could see that. You can see a little bit better that here on the cheek, there are some parts that are too bright and maybe some parts here that are too dark. And if we like brighten up the dark bits and lighten up like all of these things, then it will be even. The skin will be even out. And I'll show you how to do that. And I think some people have the urge to start with brightening things up because sometimes it's easier to see what is too dark than to see what's too bright. But if we think about how retouching works, like darkness is concealing it and light is revealing things, and we want to hide imperfections. We don't want to reveal them. So I would always suggest starting with darkening things before brightening the rest, because you might reveal things that you could have hidden in an easier way. And then one big tip, again, I've done it multiple times, that I started retouching and then I realized I'm still in the black and white layer and nothing's happening. So once you've done your help black and white layer, make sure to go back to your editing layer and not stay there. So you can use a brush depending on, once again, where, like how detailed you want it to be. You can pick a size. I think for this, and I want you to see what I'm doing, because this is also something where people are like, I don't know what's going on. Is she actually doing anything? I'll make this a bit bigger. We have an exposure of 3%, I think 3 or 4. It's usually what I do. So we start, I'll zoom in. I hope you can see something. I'll try to be as fast as possible. Once again, we are starting with darkening parts that are a little bit too bright to even out the skin. This is a technique that you will see later when I turn on and off the layer. You'll be like, oh, this is what happened. So
I see. And would you consider lightening the eyes? Because Kirsty mentioned in the chat that she thinks the eyes are a bit too dark.
I'll show you something. I don't lighten up the eyes, but I do something with the eyes. I think that is something, I don't know if we'll have time, but I think sometimes when you just lighten up the eyes, people can tell a little bit. Like if you just have to be a tiny bit too much, and then people are like, this looks like a little vampire. And so I do something different, but it kind of has, I hope, the same effect. I'll show you what I mean once we're done with Dodge and Burn. Since we have our backup layer, I can show you what I've done to the eyes in the actual photo.
Oh, cool.
So, but I understand sometimes the eyes are, I mean, they're the main focus of the picture, or like you want people to go to the eyes right away. Then it's important to make them stand out and not be too dark and fade into the background. So let me show you already what we've done so far. I hope you can see this. It's not.
So it's still black and white.
Still black and white. We can turn this off.
Oh, there we are. There we are. You can see.
Let me turn this on again, but we will go to our dodge tool to do some brightening up. I mean, this once again, if I would do this for a job, and this was for a beauty campaign, I would do this for hours. Listen to a podcast and then go into every little pore and kind of paint with light to make the skin look as smooth as possible. Yeah. But once again, we're not changing the skin. It's very non-destructive, and I love that. I think it gives the picture a very natural look in the end. But also this is something to be mindful of, to not overdo it. Even with these techniques, if you go a little bit too crazy, people will be able to tell that the skin's not natural anymore.
As natural as possible, definitely.
Exactly. I think the goal is that people look at the picture and don't know. I mean, it's okay, they know, but they don't look at it and the first thought is, someone retouched this image.
Yeah. And you recently did a self-portrait, Sophia.
Yes, I did.
So, I mean, it's lovely. I've seen the end results on Instagram for anyone that wants to see it. How did you find the experience, editing and doing skin retouching on your own, body? Was it different? Was it the same process? Was it just completely normal, or were you a little bit more critical, do you think?
I mean, full disclosure, I did not edit my photos. I just didn't. Like the self-portraits you see on Instagram, there's no skin retouching on those.
And they're flawless as well. They're very lovely. Very nice.
This is not fishing for compliments. It's just literally that I was like, I do not want to retouch my own face.
Whoa.
No, I don't. That's just, I already felt a bit strange, like taking the self-portrait. Because I had never, I tried once before and completely failed. And I was like, okay, I'll give it another shot. Literally another shot. And and I think it was a bit more fun because I wasn't as, oh my God, I'm a photographer, I have to be able to take a self-portrait. The first I took was in the beginning of the pandemic, where everyone was taking first like self-portraits. Like if you're a photographer, you should probably, it's the banana bread of photographers in the pandemic. And then I tried and I didn't like it. And this time around, I just did it because I was in the mood to do it. And it was better. But I could not retouch myself. That's the line.
Okay.
Like staring at your own face for like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah. I know. I find it when I'm editing videos and it's the sound of my own voice over and over. I'm the same as you. It's like,
yeah. Okay. So we've done some dodge and burn. We'll turn off our black and white layer or help layer And now I'm hoping, let me zoom in a little bit. I hope you can see this. This is the after, this is the before. You just see that there's like, it's not as even, not that she has bad skin or anything. It's just, this is a little bit more even. And once again, we could do this for much longer, and then it would probably look like this at some point. Just to quickly talk about the eyes, because I think it's really, we still have time. Yeah, we're good on time. So I will turn on and off the layer. You see her eyes now. Maybe people can see what I did to her eyes. I don't know if it's...
No, I can't see. Very slight then. No, I can't see a difference. Oh, the white in the eyes is lighter.
That's lighter. And also, if you look on like the brown color, I hope it's like, maybe it's just because we're not zoomed in enough. I draw in, I mean, that could be if you go all the way. Basically, I draw back in, I don't even know what it's called, on the iris, the little, these
it's little like
lines,
because the glassy bit.
Because here you can't see them. There you can. I'm not sure if you can see it on stream.
Yes.
But that is something that I do, and I lighten up just the white a little bit, not the whole eye. Just
it looks natural. It doesn't look like it's been edited. It's very slight, but just very effective. Yeah.
Oh, you can see it better on the other side now that I'm into. Look at the eyes. So, once again, dark. Right.
Nice.
I hope you can see that now. And it's more about like painting back the texture kind of thing than just brightening it up. That's what I do. I can like, maybe we have time for another stream, or like I will do another stream about lips and eyes, because I don't think we'll have enough time today. So going back to our editing, this is basically how you can dodge and burn with the dodge and burn tools. They're behind O on your keyboard. Once again, here it's really handy to use Shift and O, because you can jump back and forth between lighting something, like making it brighter, or darkening it down. So like, it's really quick workflow, I think. This is the Photoshop in-house service you have with the tools you have here. But I think if you ask a lot of photographers from, I don't know, I don't want to age shame anyone, but I think the original way of dodging and burning was using two curves layers. So you take one curves layer and you drag up the midtones. Let me do it full here. You drag up the midtones and then you invert that mask, and then you get another curves layer and you drag down the midtones to darken things, and you invert that as well. You can give them names. You can say bright and dark, or dodge and burn, or once again, whatever suits you and you remember what it is. And what we did is we created a layer, and now then we invert it, and now we can paint it back in with a brush. So B on your keyboard, and then a brush, and then you reveal what is underneath. Like you reveal the mask itself. And it's basically the same thing, because we have one layer that's a bit brighter in the midtones, and we have another layer that's a bit darker. So if you paint in the bright one, you will brighten up things. If you paint back in the dark layer, you will darken things. Once again, Oh,
sorry, you go. Carry on. I'll join.
No, just like I always use my help layer just to see where are the parts that are too dark or too bright, and then a little bit of a smaller brush, and then the opacity, I really go down to like 9 or 10. Because this is something you can be like, you kind of have to be subtle about, otherwise it gets you bright up, like you go overboard and it doesn't look good.
I was going to say, I've seen this process used before with sunsets. and gradients and bringing in the sunset, just painting different areas back over clouds, over the sea.
Yes.
But not with faces, not with portraits. So it's a good reminder.
Yeah, I think you can use this technique of you have a layer, you invert it or you hide it, and then you paint back in what you want of that layer. I think you can use this for multiple things. That's not a skin retouching thing.
And Sean has never thought of editing eyes in the way that you did, so he's going to try that.
Yeah, I can. I mean, if people are interested, I can show how I do that. It's with blending modes and painting the I don't even know what it's called. Can someone tell me what it is called? These little textures in your iris,
Let us know, everyone.
lines in your eyes.
No,
do we have some hopeless romantics that know what it's called, because they give compliments all the time about eyes?
I love it. Well, whilst you're thinking of, or if anyone can share what that is, let you know about the streams coming up this week, because today, of course, we're doing skin retouching with Sophia. Tomorrow, Tim Mobest is in the house with Charles Carter doing After Effects, and they're going to be animating some landscape photography. So this is going to be a good stream tomorrow. So definitely come into that. And then on Wednesday, Tony and Gavin are back for is it the third part of this series? I think it's another installment into Photoshop compositing. So that's your Adobe Live schedule for this week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, same time, midday.
Yes, exciting! Especially tomorrow. I'm 100% gonna watch that. After Effects for me is like mind blowing.
Yes,
it's incredible.
Yeah, I always write so much down when I join those streams.
Yes. Wow. And then after that, I look at my notes and I'm like, what did I mean? What exactly? what was I thinking? So the little, like, the benefit of the previous dodging and burning technique is obviously you're on just one layer. So I think it's a bit easier. Not saying one is better than the other. It's once again just what people prefer. Here you have two layers, so it takes a bit more time to jump between these two. But in the end, it's the same thing. Oh, nope. It's the same. And what I would do then is just group these two together, and then you can turn them on and off to see what happened, kind of. Yeah, that is basically dodge and burn. You can do it with the tools, then you do it on your editing layer, or you do it with two curves layers, and then you paint back in light or darkness. That's kind of what, and if you do this for long enough, you'll have very smooth skin. But also not, like, nobody should be disappointed. It takes a bit of time to master this. In the beginning, I was like, it does not look like what the people are doing on the YouTube. It takes a bit of time to, like, your eyes have to learn what is too dark, what is too bright, how can I change this, when to stop. So just play around with it, see what works. That's dodge and burn. So we have 15 minutes. We're at 45. So the next technique we're going to use is called frequency separation, which is, when I explain it, I know there's a way more technical way to explain it. What I think is you separate the color from the texture. I know it's like the low frequency and the high frequency, and then people are like, what is this, physics? I don't know. So we just gonna separate the color from the texture so that we can edit both separately, which is, I think, really nice, because when you only edit the texture, you don't have color shifts in the skin, which is a good thing. What you need for this is 2 copies of your background layer. Oh, no. Here we go. Go on this, Command J. Here. Oh, come on.
And Sophia, I have to tell you, Sean has found out that the lines in the eyes that you were editing are called furrows.
Oh.
Furrows, furrows.
I had no idea.
Yeah. You learned something new. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you. Color, or like, whatever. You can name them however you like. Color, structure, whatever. The first thing we're gonna do is you go to the lower frequency or the color one, and you go onto filter and noise, and then median. There are also different ways to get to this result. This is just one, and that's the one that I use. And what you have to do is you zoom out a little bit, and what you want from the radius is that you can't see the texture of the skin anymore. So if we go to 0, it's the image as it is, and then you go slowly up to a point where you can still see the structure of the face, but you can't see the little like pores and all these fine details anymore. I think something around 26 works. Then you do okay. If we turn this off, this is what it looks like now. And then you go to your structure, layer, and you go to image, apply image, and then you have to select the layer that is underneath, so color, and then you not multiply but subtract, and then you see we've kind of like subtract the texture or like the structure from the image. You hit okay. Now we're done. No. Perfect. No, you have to change the blending mode to linear light. And then once you group these two layers and you turn it on and off, it should basically not change what you see because you haven't changed the image. The only thing you've done is you've created two layers that if you add them up, it is the image as you've seen it before. You've just divided it into two parts. One part being the texture, the other part being the color. And if we put these two layers together, like we've done now, and then group them and turn them on and off, it's still the same picture because we have not changed anything about the picture. In these two layers, we have just divided the information that we have in that picture. Does that make sense? I hope.
Yes, but please tell me again, why would you do this? Why would you separate the texture from the color?
It's because something we want to avoid often is color shifts in the skin. So we do not want to touch the color because that can look very unnatural. That kind of often looks like dull skin or porcelain skin. And then also for other things, for like if you want to smoothen out clothes because they have wrinkles. This is a technique you can use also for other things, not just for skin retouching. You can then just use a tool on the color because you don't mind that the color is actually shifting. Like you can make it easier to keep the parts of the image that you want to keep if you don't want to change anything about the texture. You just want to change the color in the background. For example, fabric. If you want to iron fabric on photos, I would just change the color but not the texture because then it's a smooth background, but you still have like these little cotton texture thingies. And for skin, it's the opposite. We want to keep the color. We don't want to shift too many pixels, but we oftentimes want to change something about the texture of the skin. If we want to remove the pimple, then that's often on the texture layer, not just on the color layer. Yeah, so it is something that some people do their whole skin retouching on like using frequency separation. I think that can look fake really fast. So be really careful of that technique. It's way quicker to go too far with frequency separation than with dodge and burn, I think, in my experience. But I'll show you how I use this because I think there's a very good use for it. And now we're going to use the clone stamp tool, like promised 45 minutes ago. And I also realized that I had removed my black and white layer because we need it again.
Oh, yeah. Well, Sandrine in the chat says that frequency separation works to also correct white hair on separate strands of hair.
Yes, yes.
Good.
I think frequency separation is something that you can use for, it's not exclusively skin retouching thing. Also, dodge and burn is not. Dodge and burn is also something that you can use in a lot of different ways. If you have a picture of a landscape and you just want to brighten up a tree, you can also use that. So all these tips come in handy for multiple kinds of photos. So sometimes also when we talk about why we separate color from the texture from the color, when I'm retouching people's bodies, like the skin on their bodies, I sometimes use the mixture brush to smooth out even the color on their skin. So if you have a patch on your arm, I just take the mixture brush on the color, not touching the texture, so you can still see the pores and everything, but we can smooth out the color. I would only use that on body, not on face, because on face it can look fake real fast. I mean, that would be something like we go to the mixture brush, go into color, and if we then, I mean, you can smooth out everything here. I think it's quite tempting for people to do that, but then it will look fake real fast. I mean,
oh, yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's just too smooth, isn't it?
Exactly, it's really, really smooth, and that's what I mean with people can go too far with frequency separation real quick because you're like, ooh, this looks, it's so easy and so fast. And if it's easy and fast in skin retouching, there is the risk of it looking fake.
Yeah, and some phone cameras have got that kind of filter built into the normal camera. So when they take a photo, it almost looks, oh, it's weird. I don't have anything like that switched on. Yeah, it's all, yeah.
Yeah, then it kind of looks like a these like face apps that kind of make your skin super smooth.
Snapchat filters.
Yeah. Snapchat filters.
Or Instagram. Yeah.
Yes. So how I use frequency separation is to kind of take a short cut to what I could do with dodge and burn. Meaning, look at her nose and you see these like teeny tiny, I don't know, imperfections on the nose. If we would dodge and burn this would take a long time because we would have to go in to these little tiny pimples and see where they're too bright and where they're too dark to kind of even them out. It takes ages. We don't want to do that. So there's another technique. We go to the texture layer and we go to the clone stamp tool. But we're not going to just use the clone stamp tool. We're going to use it in the lighten or the darken mode, which kind of means if you copy something here, it will only, if I paint over this, it will only affect the pieces that are darker than what I've just copied, which kind of makes it like it's not affecting the things that have the same brightness. So if I'm in the lighten mood and I copy from this area and paint on top of another area, it's only lightening up the parts that are darker than the area that I've copied from, which kind of is, I think, a little sneaky dodge and burn, making it real fast. Because make sure that the opacity is not too high. I had a really high opacity over here, like opacity around 10%. Otherwise you go too fast. I could even go down on the opacity a little bit, but that kind of makes it super easy to edit something like goosebumps or these little pimples on the nose without having to dodge and burn for ages. And the good thing is, since we're only doing it on the texture layer, the color on the skin once again remains the same. There's no change, no shift, nothing. And if we go to the darken mode, it does the exact same thing, just the other way around. So it will only affect the things that are brighter than in the area we're copying from. And that is a little bit of a sneaky way around dodging and burning very small details or things that would take a really, really long time. Yeah.
A good one.
That's how I use frequency separation, kind of. But yeah, it can be used in a lot of different ways for a lot of different kinds of photos. And that's once again just, one way. Everything that works for whoever is editing is okay. And if you want a photo that looks like the person has the skin of a doll, that's also fine. Up to you and your art. So before we're done here, if you see like the pieces on her nose are brightened up now, once again, we could do this. If we would do this properly, it would take a long time. And I think oftentimes people can't really see the results right away. Like I said, it takes time, it takes practice to, in the end, we have to remove these, to in the end look like this, basically.
That looks so good.
This would be, and I think on this picture I used a dodge and burn, frequency separation, and a rough cleanup. And then if you do this for, I think for this image, this took me like a day or so. This is what you get if you use all the different techniques that we talked about today, and practice a little bit. This could be the outcome, basically.
It's so cool. It looks so good though. You can see that it's still so natural.
Yes, you can still see texture a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Kirsty said earlier on in the chat, almost towards the start of the stream, that keeping it as natural looking as possible. Yeah. And I really love your rule that you mentioned earlier. And if anyone missed this, I think you mentioned it around halfway. It was about half 12. Where you said that if it is something there, an imperfection or something that would be there 2 weeks later, then it should stay.
Yeah.
Unless it's distracting away from the purpose of the image or the intent of the image. Love that rule. Love that tip.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah. So this would be this could be the result of editing, and I guess we're like done, no? Because I'm like, should I do something else, or is this are we too tight on time?
We got 2 minutes.
2 minutes. I mean, just quickly about if there's any color irritation, someone has really red spots somewhere, what I would recommend is just going to a hue and saturation layer. Here, let's drag this on top, and then go to your reds, if it's a red spot, for example, and then you go all the way on your saturation just to see what area is selected here, because if you look at this, you can see what is selected, and then you drag down the slider. Let's pretend that we want to change. You can see that it's like the smaller I make this, it's important to have the saturation at 100 so we see what area is actually affected right now.
Yeah.
Let's say we want to remove some of the, I don't know, redness on her nose. So we want to see what is actually being affected. And now we know this area on her nose is affected. So we go back to 0, and then we can change the color here. We can make it a little bit like take out of the red, or if you want to add red, you can do that on that area. And then once again, you invert that mask and you paint it only back on the area you want to change the color of. That is kind of how you would, if you have some color irritation in the skin. I think that's a very quick way to fix that.
Love it. You've given us so many good tips today. So good, Sophia. Do you know, it's always lovely having you on. I've loved the fact that we've gone back almost in time to look at history about original photo editing techniques today. You shared some great tips about, skin retouching and different rules that you have. You shared your process. I've loved it. Sophia, it's always lovely having you on.
Thank you so much.
So thanks for joining. And yeah, for everybody that's joining us for the rest of the streams this week, Tim and Gavin are here tomorrow in After Effects, definitely up to some mischief in animating landscape photography. So, oh, Charles Carter, who did I say? Gavin. Charles Carter. And Gavin's here with Tony on Wednesday. Sorry, everybody. Slight mistake. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day. And thank you again, Sophia. And we'll all see you soon. Have a great one. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.